Okay, let's go to the abandoned trolleys. Yes, come on up.
I will take it that the paper that you all had has been read. I'd just like to provide some background on how where we are at the moment, and where we've come from. So when the bylaw was updated in 2023, the question of putting something in the bylaw to address the issue of abandoned trolleys was raised. It was investigated with the policy team, and it was agreed that it would not be put in from the recommendation. The hearings committee asked for an update within the next 12 months, which I came back last December, I believe. That was following some conversations with some of the main supermarkets to see what they were doing, what they had, and gain that kind of understanding. Following that paper, there were some asked to do some fact finding from Auckland Council to see how having it in their bylaw had actually made any difference, and what options they were. So as part of that, I've spoken to a number of the council staff at the Auckland Council. I've also spoken to the New Zealand Retail Association, and what we found was that the clause that's in their bylaw has never been enacted, but what did happen is that the Retail Association started an accord where they invited the main players in the industry. They got together, they came up with best practice, effectively, ways to address it with education, and they worked together between the three parties, between the council, between the industry, and between the Retail Association to coordinate that. And that's what we would like to do. I feel that the advantage of that is while some organisations have a fairly robust system in place, it's not consistent. And I think that's the problem we're seeing. So what this would do is it would be information sharing and getting everybody up to the same standard and having an agreement that's across the board.
Well, thank you for that. So I've got Tim and then Kelly and then Tyler.
With all that in Auckland, because running events, you try and get things in front of people, but you keep talking to the people that are actually not the problem. So has there been any significant change with the process that they have entered into in Auckland about trolleys lying around, or is it still an issue?
I would say it still is an issue. It's difficult to quantify. They treat it differently from what we treat it. They treat it, so the figures I've got as far as like, they treat it as illegal dumping. So it's a percentage of their illegal dumping, and it's a very small percentage. And that could be because their illegal dumping in general is a lot greater than ours, or it could be that it is a better result.
So with regards to illegal dumping, does that, because when we get cones and then the owners of the cones all kind of just didn't work, because no one would pay the group that went round and picked them all up. They wouldn't buy the cones back. So with the trolleys, even though they could be classed as illegal dumping, do we then have the right, because it's illegal dumping, to pick them up and take them to the dump or recycling to the metal?
The policy team recommended that no, we don't. There's a legal test to it. I mean, it may be that when we get all the parties together, that the parties may decide that the best option is for them to all cost share in someone that does that. It's a forum to come up with the best solution.
Okay, Kelly, Tyler, Celeste, and then Jake, and then Yanni.
Yeah, this question is, how big is the problem? Are there any stats around?
Yeah, there were some stats that I put in the previous paper. So it is reasonable. I think there were a couple of thousand over a period of time, might have been over, I think. Hard to know for sure that it's not the same trolley being reported. I think that's where it gets a bit difficult.
And do you have a sort of in those stats, we have a heat map of where the bigger problems are? Because I mean, I'm the councillor which represents Aranui, and I do notice a lot of trolleys around, and I would assume that it's because people don't have access to vehicles in the same way someone in this area might. So do you have any anecdotal evidence around that at all?
We only know what we're being reported.
Yeah.
So we can tell where the greatest reports are. We don't know where So if they're not being reported, it may not reflect necessarily that that's where the trolleys are.
And just a final question, are the supermarkets seeing it as a problem? Because obviously, you know, you go to some retailers, they'll lend you a trailer, you know. How do the supermarkets feel about it? I mean, I don't feel like the complaints coming from them, it's more the.
No, the larger supermarkets have quite robust systems in place. One has a system where somebody is out there within 5 k's of the worst areas where they're experiencing them being taken and actively removing them before they're being reported. Others have systems where they've got someone that's their dedicated job when they are reported, but that's not across the board with all retailers. And that's what we want to bring everybody up to the same level.
Yeah, you'd think that would be built into their pricing and their service of their community, right? Thank you.
Yeah. Right. Tola.
Good guys. I just wanted to ask a question, also for public knowledge around the use of SnapSend Solve and how that's utilised. So from my understanding, SnapSend Solve goes directly to the retailer themselves and the retailer then picks the trolleys up. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is there a certain catchment in which that gets acted upon, or is it up to the retailer to decide if they want to pick it up or not?
It's up to the retailer. But this is what, if we bring it into this forum, we would be putting some KPIs around the timeframes that they would have to do that.
Okay, and would that also include catchments? Because I mean, in Sockburn Park, I represent a pretty big ward, busy ward, which obviously has a lot of trolley movement. Sockburn Park, for example, has take and save trolleys quite often, just further than probably others, and it's further than on the wall. It's very odd. So I'm wondering about those ones, because those ones are sort of the illegal, really simple one, in comparison to just picking them up 400 metres away from the.
It will be all trolleys.
Okay, that's no, thank you.
Yeah.
Celise. So I've got Celise, Jake, Yanni, Sarah, Aaron, Victoria.
Silly not.
Are you good? Jake?
I'm glad, I'm really happy with this proposed action, and I'm glad that we've kept at it, because at the time we considered this, the advice was, Auckland haven't had much luck. So I'm glad you've been able to look at it in the fullness of time and actually go, there is something we can do that can positively address the situation. What I'm wondering, do you think Auckland obviously have that regulatory backstop, that bylaw? Do you think that without the threat of that there may be less buy-in when it comes to getting people to work together?
I don't think so.
Okay. And second question is, what reporting back on your proposed actions do you propose to do?
I would say in 6 months, I'd like to come back with where we're at and how we've progressed and give everybody an update.
All right. And then that'll be built into Info Council. Does that need to be noted or just, okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. Right.
Yanni.
Cool. Yeah, I was just wondering in terms of, obviously we're not part of LGNZ anymore, but we are part of Solgum. Has there been any discussion around a national approach in terms of legislation? Just mindful that what we heard today obviously was that operators won't pick up trolleys that have other things in them. They don't see it as their responsibility.
I think that may be based on organisation, because the feedback I've had from 2 major organisations I've worked with is that they do take it and they do dispose of it. So it may not be consistent. Right. And that will be something that we can discuss in that forum as well and have a best practice on that. They should be picking it up and they should be disposing of it.
Right. And in terms of council's role, if someone reports that to council, if there's a shopping trolley in the way or actually creating a hazard on our roadway, like we heard today, what would our response be?
We would be putting, well, it depends. If it's that unsafe, we wouldn't be looking at how we could remove it. But I did notice in the Accord that Auckland they had a different response time for ones that were actually unsafe versus ones that were just on the street. So they were still getting them all coordinating it, but they were sort of like 2 days for a normal trolley. It might be 3 hours if it's actually going to be a hazard, and we can have a look at that when we get to that.
State of emergency solution.
And in terms of just looking forward, So just my understanding from the report is we'll try and work with an accord with operators, owners to start with. But that we also have a waste bylaw review process underway as well. So I was just wondering if you could just advise me of how, if the voluntary stuff doesn't work, or at what stage we could look at more regulations if that was the approach that we wanted to use.
We would definitely, if this does not work, we would, that's our next option.
Yeah, and in terms of the social impact, there would be nothing that would prevent us from talking to Kainga or OCHT, for example, around the impact that they might play in terms of addressing this issue. Like they could be part of the solution as well.
Yeah, you mean like from an education perspective, or?
A combination of people that if there is a prevalence, for shopping trolleys to appear in those areas, maybe there's an issue in terms of people getting their groceries back, and therefore maybe there's a way in which those groups can be, those organisations can play a role in terms of both reporting, collecting, and actually ensuring that people have the ability to get groceries home if the reason that they're taking the trolley is because they don't have any other option.
Okay, Sarah.
Thanks so much. Councillor Barber's point, acknowledging that we only know what's reported, and I'm assuming that in an area like this, if a trolley got left, to be reported pretty quickly. Is there a heat map, and can we see a heat map? So when I got called by the guy yesterday, one of the things he thought that was a key issue with that lack of alternative transport by way of the bus network, and he said, I think if you do a heat map, you'll find that the key areas are away from bus routes because people don't have that other way of transporting to shops and things. No, it's just that they don't, So
yeah,
can we get a heat
I
map?
can see if I can do that. The information's not held in council, it's part of Snapseed and Solve.
Yeah.
Because it goes directly to them,
Yeah,
but we have dug
But
out
there's
some
map.
information, so I'll see if we can get that.
Yeah. That'd be great, thank you.
Aaron, and then Victoria, and then I think we keep moving.
Yeah, so in the options we'll get coming back, will one potentially be that you can't take, can we have it that you can't take a trolley from a premises, that once you can't leave the car park. So without using a locking system, it's a sort of thing in there that you're just not allowed to, just like you can't take books out the library without having permission to take the book out the library. I can't just go load my arms and go.
I think the difficulty with that would be unless you put a security team around the perimeter of the car park, it's not realistic.
Right, so just signage in that, because like you can have signs in a store like don't steal our stuff.
Yeah.
Most people abide by that. But
I think education and signage is definitely part of this process, and that's what Auckland had in their report. It's definitely part of it.
yeah, because in society we have rules to drive behaviour. They don't work all the time, they don't save every life and things like that, so they give us a pretty clear guide, like always drive on the left, that kind of thing. Works well.
Yeah, I
Okay,
agree.
cool.
Yeah.
So you good?
So, by having that rule, is that a possibility or is
It's
it not?
definitely, I think it's realistic to look at signage and maybe an advertising campaign if we decide that bus stops are an issue, and maybe that we have a campaign at bus stops to remind people. I guess socially, we've kind of accepted that this just happens. We want to probably reverse that a bit so that it's not normal. It's not just accepted when you're walking down the road. So part of that would be that engagement in education.
Okay, Victoria, and then we're gonna go back to Yanni, and I've got to move up and Pauline.
Thank you. I note from para 2 in your report that the only recommendation we're looking for is to receive the information in this report. So other than that, can I just clarify, are you just looking for a steer from us? Because there's no other decision making for us here today.
Yeah.
And then the next question is, do you currently have sufficient budget provision to do this piece of work?
We will make it happen.
Thank you.
So it's been moved by Pauline, seconded by Phil. You got a question, Yanni?
Yeah, I just wanted to check. So have we talked to the district planning team around the consenting conditions, because it seems to me one of the other things that other councils have looked at is when new supermarkets or new buildings go in that have shopping trolleys, there is a pathway around requirements or, environmental mitigation through the consenting process. So as part of this, are we able to talk to the district planning team around some advice around what they might be able to do?
We can discuss it with them. I think the problem is it's not the actual stores causing the problem, it's the people taking it. that are causing the problem.
So like I'm aware, for example, and sometimes when fast food outlets get consent, there's a requirement on them to do a certain round and clean up litter and rubbish. And I mean, again, they could make the same argument, and I think our deputation made that point this morning. There just seems to be an inconsistency in the approach that we take with some other activities versus these activities. So I think getting advice back on that would be, helpful.
So just for clarification, could I suggest that we roll 4.1 in as the resolution? Would that work for you, for staff? To council staff work with New Zealand Retail Association? Would that be okay? Not better. Bill, you okay with that as a second?
So do we want to just get some wording?
Yeah. 4.10, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that it could include other stakeholders.
Just maybe.
Oh, I mean, that's pretty specific with the local retailers, but in terms of the social.
Moving the trolleys, that's upsetting them. You only just had another quick.
They're all.
Question.
So Yanni?
Stakeholders. Do you want to just have stakeholders in there? Because there might be.
Tanya.
Staff know what they're doing.
You've got
Some ideas.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Really cool.
Okay, all right, so let's keep it together.
We'll do the formatting, mate.
Yep, so you were happy. So can everyone just, if we just have a
Guys.
please? So.
Sorry, mate.
So
Riveting, it's riveting.
first, so there's an additional point there that notes that council staff will work with. So that's been moved by the deputy mayor and seconded by the mayor. Is there any discussion on this?
Let's get on with it.
Yanni?
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the work that staff have done on this issue. It did actually start in 2021 when I did a notice motion to the local community board to get a greater response to the issue of shopping trolleys. In my time, both on the community board and on the council, the problem has been getting worse, not better. And we've got an advent of new technology. Obviously, Snaps and Solve is an ability for people to take photos and report it. And it would be really good to get some better data. But one of the things that falls down is the response times. And as has been said, some operators are really good and other operators seem to take a long time. Personally, I've logged numerous complaints for the same shopping trolley over a matter of weeks, which the local Papanui Central and a community board will be well aware of. The frustration of getting one single shopping trolley picked up took hours and hours of my time. So I don't think it's fair that the burden falls on the community to manage this issue. I think the people that own the shopping trolleys and the people that use the shopping trolleys have to take more of the responsibility of ensuring that they are not just left abandoned to create all sorts of issues in our waterways, on our footpaths, etc. I'm heartened by the fact that staff have said that if we approve number 2, which is to work through the MOU process, that we still have the backstop of the waste minimisation bylaw, which will be reviewed in 2026. So the timing works well. We can work through this voluntary accord, try and get some good outcomes in the meantime. But if we do need a regulatory backstop, then we still have that ability. But someone asked about the numbers. It's about 6,500 shopping trolleys report. So it is a massive issue in our community. It's not something that I think we should just do nothing on. We need to do more. I think you've seen the frustration of some local residents or a local resident this morning, where they would like to see council being more proactive in the space, which this is a start to do. So I support this progress. I think it's good for our community to get more work happening on this issue.
Thank you, Yanni. We've got Tim, Kelly, and then Aaron, and then we'll try and move it on. So Tim?
Thank you, and thank you to staff. It's a really awkward one and a growing one. It's I think that a really good way forward would be to make sure that when you were discussing with the supermarkets, the idea that they must have identification on the trolleys of their brand, as it is Pegaso, whatever it is, because I do not believe that our ratepayers in general would want us using their ratepayers' money going around collecting other people's trolleys, who by definition have allowed those individuals to take their property onto the street and do whatever they do with them. So I think it's a great way forward, and thank you very much for the report.
Kelly, and then Aaron?
Yeah, thank you. This is really interesting. You know, no one likes to see trolleys littered around the neighbourhoods and things like that. But I guess the thing I'm most concerned about is those lower socioeconomic people who don't have an ability, they don't own a car, or they don't have an ability to get their groceries home. And it's very easy to say chuck them in a backpack and things like that. But I think it can be incredibly difficult. And I find it strange that in this day and age, that supermarkets wouldn't be working with the communities that they serve to make sure that their customers can get home with their groceries. So if that means the metal trolley gets stopped at the gate of the supermarket, and the supermarket maybe funds some kind of plastic trolley or whatever so that people can get their groceries home, I think that would be a really simple solution. I agree with Councillor Scandrett about the branding of trolleys. I SnapSend solve more than my fair share, and I find sometimes that I don't, there's no branding, or it's not clear enough and whose trolley it is. At the end of the day, those retailers, if they're $700 and that's what they cost, that's a lot of money to have floating out there. So they should be taking responsibility to serve their community and make sure that their community is also kept tidy, but while at the same time protecting the most vulnerable people in our society who do have an issue with getting their groceries home. So yeah, I'm glad this piece of work is happening, and I look forward to seeing what solutions we come up with.
Thank you, Kelly. Aaron?
Yeah, I just want to raise a couple of points. One is around, I'm a little disappointed that people point the finger at supermarkets so much. You know, supermarkets provide a service, they sell us food items, and the way commercial enterprise works is that if their costs go up, the price of what they're selling goes up, and then you end up in a cost of living crisis, and people complain about the cost of groceries. When several thousand trolleys go missing a year at several $100s each, that only puts the price of groceries up. So this is the behaviour of a small few, and I say to them, cut it out. Take your trolley back or don't take it, as a standard rule. If you can walk home with a trolley full of groceries, you can also walk back again. And it might not be straight away, sit down, have a cup of tea, then head back again. But for people looking to solve this, the problem of people not being able to carry their groceries, a shopping trolley starts at $19.99 and would carry most people's groceries, because it's a metre high, 45 wide by 260 deep. That's about 4 grocery bags full of groceries. And then also, you wouldn't need to buy the grocery bags if you're so broke, because they would actually go inside your bag, and then you can walk that home. It'd actually be an easier walk than a shopping trolley. So let's not blame the supermarkets. Let's put the blame where it lies, and that's with people's behaviour. And when you don't have barriers in society to say to people what's good and bad behaviour, like, you know, just take a trolley and dump it, it grows and grows and grows, and that's where we've got to here. And it just needs to be reversed, like the staff said, and brought back into line, and that will help keep the cost of groceries down.
The king of hot takes.
I don't think that the theft of shopping trolleys is pushing prices up when our supermarkets are making massive profits including one of them being able to spend $400 million on a rebrand in recent memory.
Sounds like council.
I don't think that the trolley the issue there. I'm also really concerned that we would look to punish the poor instead of working collaboratively to find a solution. With the supermarkets and with potentially OCHT and Kāinga Ora and other agencies to make sure that we are looking after our most vulnerable in society. Just because you haven't lived in someone else's shoes doesn't mean that they're as capable, fit and athletic as you might be, and able to carry their groceries a long way. Many, for example, the pack and save and sock burn sort of issue, you know, pack and save for many people is the cheapest place to go. They might part a closer supermarket to get groceries from further away because they can't afford to go to their local one. It's a long way to take a trolley back. Yes, people should be reserving their trolleys. No, I'm not condoning theft, as some have accused me of online. But we do need to work collaboratively to find solutions instead of punishing the poor. Thank you.
Yeah. Great. So we're gonna keep going, are we? We're shopping trolleys and finance.
Save it, come.
Close it
down.
Close it down.
No, I would like to.
Like to,
Only 10 seconds.
okay, cool. Celeste and then Andre.
I'm not gonna.
Guys, our colleague is going to talk.
I'll keep it short. Thank you for your work on this. And I also want to acknowledge Yanni, who I think has been the squeaky wheel, no pun intended. And getting it to this point, I think actually an MOU with the Retailers Association seems like a pragmatic step forward, and it kind of makes sense. It'd be good to look at some of the other issues around how some of those supermarkets are managed. I don't have a problem with calling out bad business practice, so I think it's good to actually work collaboratively with them and actually hold them to account when they're not doing their job in terms of managing the stuff. So, but yeah, I just want to acknowledge Yanni for his work.
Well done.
Okay, Andre, and then we're gonna.
Yeah, no, I was pointing out, I don't think this is a good use of time and resources, and I won't be supporting this. I don't think we should be persisting. If you're getting really upset by trolleys in the community and you happen to be going for a walk to the shops, wheel it back. They're fun to ride. You push them. You get to stand up and get a few seconds of airtime. But wheel it back. I totally respect the work Yanni's done, but like 3 hours to get one trolley removed, wheel it back. I just don't know why we're debating this. It's going to come to us in a few months. We're going to spend another half an hour on this. So no, I don't support us spending more.
We're going to spend another half an hour. Let's stop.
So I won't be supporting this. So it won't be coming back to us. We won't be spending even more time on it in future. So that's what I'm arguing here today.
Okay, so that motion has been moved and seconded. I do not want to hear about this again.
Well, you will.
You will. No,
You're supporting it coming back.
Stephen report, you will. Revision. Should have taken 2 minutes. Good work though, Tam. And let's put that to the vote. All in favour?
Aye.
Against?
No.
So Andre and Melanie,
Got an ally.
that's carried.
I'm sorry.
Hey, we're gonna move from, thank you.